In the West, immigration has undeniably become the political fixture of a family dinner gone wrong, with everyone shouting about borders and who belongs where. And you have everyone pointing fingers at America, Britain, or the rest of Europe, as usually they're at the crossfires of the media spotlight of chaos. As of course you have Trump's mass deportation plans, the Channel boat crossings, and Europe's endless back and forth about quotas and compassion. But nevertheless, I guess we can all agree that it's all very dramatic, very public, and very exhausting. The fact that immigration has been an issue for practically nearly 20 years now, and the situation or problems for both sides not really being subdued, with tensions just simmering under the surface, like a pot ready to boil over again at any election cycle. But let's not fret, and let's leave this chaotic hellscape that is the West and immigration, and perhaps take a look at Asia, the surely far more enlightened and far more orderly society. When you take a country like Japan, and you would imagine they would have super serious leaders tackling this issue. Especially when you compare how immigration is treated in Asia versus in the West. For example, you can even take a look at how South Koreans took matters into their own hands with dealing with the infamous streamer Johnny Somali, or even how the Philippine police locked up Vitaly straight away after his antics when he landed in their country. And see, in the West, of course immigration gets shouted about, whereas as you would assume in Asia, it's handled very, I guess, quietly and politely and bureaucratically. You wouldn't see screaming mobs on CNN. You'll just see entire communities vanish from city districts, or rules rewritten overnight, or foreign workers politely escorted home. Immigration in Asia is just never perceived as being loud or having any interesting tidbits behind it. Rather, it's just surgical, and it's often just justified as keeping the harmony of the society. But there's no better place to look at than Japan. The country everyone thinks is the blueprint for order, discipline, and quiet competence. The one place where people bow before crossing the street, where crime's so low it's almost fictional. Where you have trains running so precisely you could set your watch by them. So you would imagine the image of Japan being super neat, reinforcing the predictable and rational and nothing to it. Just straight up bland and simple. Except it's more than that with Japan's immigration issue and their new Waifu Hapa minister that has Japanese right-wing Twitter simping for. And here's the thing, I've been recently fascinated by Kimi Onoda ever since stumbling upon this tweet on X. And it pointed out how some of the people who are absolutely the most hardline about immigration, or racial purity for that matter, aren't even fully from the demographics they espouse. The tweet says that Kimi Onoda is a Hapa, Stephen Miller is Jewish, Nick Fuentes is Mexican, and Sean King is 3% black. And it goes further in saying that, is there a name for the phenomenon where people are only partly of a certain race, becoming its most passionate defenders? And I guess ever since liking that tweet, I got a lot of Japan watchers popping up in my algorithm, which led me to have a deeper dive on Kimi. And yeah, she has a legit wilder background and approach to immigration that makes the Western stuff look downright mild by comparison. And this is honestly lost on the average person in the West, as long as you don't translate the stuff said about her and her wild instances. So this video will take a deeper dive on about the crazy stuff I found about the new Japanese minister and her wild background. So let's get this out of the way and set some context. Japan's immigration system is notoriously strict, and everyone knows that one weeb friend who swears they're moving to Japan, only to get crushed by the visa process or the cold shoulder that comes after. Even the ones who make it, learn the language and follow the rules and work hard, eventually hit a wall. The wall is that the Japanese, probably never accept them. Getting an apartment in Japan is a nightmare. Half of the landlords won't rent to foreigners, and local city social circles are even harder to break into. And what this ends up with, you'll be, tolerated but not included, and you're more likely to be treated as a passing curiosity at a cultural zoo than an actual neighbor. And even if you scroll Reddit threads on English teachers filling school gaps and tech engineers propping up the economy, and then when you have the second you try to settle in and blend in or bring new ideas, you hit that invisible barrier, and then comes the polite version of exile: a bow, a smile, and silence. So because right now Japan's immigration policy is being spearheaded by someone who looks like the country's PR dream of diversity. Kimi Onoda, a half Japanese, half Irish, a Chicago-born woman. And you would think that background would of course scream a new Japan, a modern half-Western global Japan, ready to open up its doors, a nation finally ready to integrate outsiders. Except of course is the exact opposite. So diving into Kimi Onoda's story doesn't just start in some proud kawaii Japanese prefecture, thousands of miles from the country she'd later defend like a fortress. Her mother was Japanese, her father an Irish American, who walked out on Kimi when she was just 2. No support, no contact, just silence. Her mother took her back to Okayama, a rural patch of Japan where half foreign kids were rare as that one friend who swears he's the only tourist in Tokyo who's being respectful.
Look at this tourist. He's just so disrespectful standing there like a dumb gaijin. I would never be like that.
Oh, thank you so much. Don't worry, arigato.
So Japan's new enforcer of national purity, the woman who now defines who counts as Japanese enough, actually grew up as a hafu, half Japanese child with a foreign birthplace and a broken family. You'd think that kind of background would breed some empathy perhaps, someone who knows what it feels between worlds. But nah, Onoda went the other way. She didn't lean into the half identity at all. From her remarks, she's basically erased it all, insisting she's 100% Japanese, full stop. And you even have this situation when another mixed race politician, Renho, complained that Japan's dual citizen debate carried racist undertones. And you have Kimi snapping back. She even accused Renho of creating conflict between those with foreign blood and those without, basically translating into stop playing the victim. She even made her position brutally clear. Being mixed doesn't make you special, she says. It just means that dear old Kimi will have to work twice as hard to prove she belongs. And from what I've researched, she's been proving it her entire career. In 2017, after years of whispers that she still held American citizenship, Onoda didn't just quietly fix the paperwork. No, she posted the certificate of renunciation online for everyone to see. A pure ritualistic public exorcism of her foreign half. And it's the oldest pattern in nationalism, the outsider who becomes the strictest gatekeeper. And now in Japan, that gatekeeper just happens to be a Chicago-born otaku turned senator. And Kimi Onoda's climb up Japan's political ladder has been oddly cinematic. After graduating with a civics teaching license, she did a short corporate detour, PR at a video game company, then jumped into politics where she won a Tokyo City Assembly seat in 2011, and by 2016 she'd made it to the national diet. And that's when the citizenship scandal hit. Someone dug up records showing that she still legally held US citizenship, and you have the Japanese right-wing tabloids going wild. Here was a foreigner sitting in parliament, and of course most politicians would have spun or stalled, but Kimi didn't. She apologized once, then fixed it and renounced and moved, with her having no tears or self-pity. And if anything, this was the first controversy that put her in the spotlight, highlighting who she was and turning one of her weaknesses into proof of discipline and mission. And that's what exactly impressed Sanae Takaichi, Japan's first female prime minister and a hard-right nationalist who prizes order over everything. By 2025, Onoda had become Takaichi's protege, and when Takaichi took power, she rewarded Onoda with 2 roles: Minister of Economic Security and Minister for a well-ordered coexistence with foreign nationals. Sounds pretty friendly, right? In reality, it just means immigration czar. The person who decides who stays, who leaves, and under what conditions. So the message was obvious. The new Japan would be run by women, just not the kind that I guess everyone expected. And there it was, a half-Irish, US-born woman leading Japan's effort to keep the country ethnically pure, a multicultural literal face enforcing monocultural policy. And you have the Japanese right wing absolutely loving it. And if anyone thought that her own background might make her sympathetic to foreigners, of course you are wrong. Onoda's first press conference as minister made that clear. She cited crimes and disruptive behavior by some foreign nationals and promised a government-wide crackdown, protecting ordinary Japanese people from, quote, anxiety and unfairness. So essentially in her world, Japan doesn't have an immigration problem. Immigration has a problem in Japan. So conform or leave. And Kimi Onoda is absolutely blunt about it too. She describes foreigners as something between a resource and a risk. Basically necessary but conditional. And when journalists pointed out the irony, a half-American woman talking about racial purity, she laughed it off, saying that her soul is fully Japanese. And even her parliamentary record, she backed laws restricting foreign land purchases, joining nationalist study groups focused on, quote, protecting Japan's dignity, and supported proposals to cap the foreign population under 10%. So if you want to rough it down, her speeches circle basically the same idea, the Japanese idea of harmony through uniformity. And of course it's the rhetoric that delights Japan's right and makes the liberals there absolutely squirm. But of course Onoda doesn't care, with her entire brand being discipline, following the rules and obeying the order, and demanding everyone else do the same, basically being the hall monitor of the nation. And here's where it gets surreal. Beneath the hardline image, Onoda is a total nerd, like a proper real one, and not just like any politician pretending to like anime for youth votes. Before politics, she legit worked at a media company promoting otome games, story-based dating sims for women, and CD drama CDs voiced by famous anime actors. And even one of her projects being a crossover between Hetalia and Goodnight with Sheep, an audio drama where personified countries whisper bedtime stories. And yes, Japan's immigration minister once wrote scripts of anthropomorphic nations counting sheep to help you sleep, and her resume reads like a fever dream. She used to draw Suikoden fan comics and sell them at Comiket, the biggest fan convention in the world. So imagine a future cabinet minister sitting at a folding table selling homemade manga about warlords and fantasy kingdoms. So that's basically her origin story. And you have the anime world absolutely loving her for it. Hetalia creator Hideki's Hamaroya publicly praised her knowledge of the series. And you even have the Love Hina author Ken Akamutsu, now also a politician, has called her one of us. And they've even appeared together in videos debating manga and policy in the same breath. And of course she leans into it, with her X account swinging between serious policy talk and straight up geek posting. And you have her one day discussing national security, and the next she's answering fans about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, saying, quote, I'm a Hamon purist. And of course to the otaku crowd, she's proof that nerds really can make it into power. To everyone else, she's a basically paradox. And of course her private life adds another layer to the mythology. She's openly 2D only, meaning she only loves fictional men. So no real world dating, no marriage prospects, nothing. She even wears a ring on her left hand for her husband Oscar, a character from the Angelique series. She jokes that it keeps the real suitors away, but I think that's just code for the weebs out there creeping on her. But the symbolism fits her politics perfectly. Even as minister, she hasn't outgrown it, with friends saying she still writes songs and doodles fan art is part of her appeal, and the authenticity that Japan's young right wing adore. But you know, Kimi Onoda should not exist, but of course she does. Only Japan could produce a politician like this, a half-Western anime writing fangirl turned nationalist minister. She's the collusion point of everything contradictory about modern Japan. But overall, if anything, Onoda seems perfectly at peace with her role. To her, there's no contradiction in being a half-American patriot. She simply outpaces the nationalists on nationalism. Her cute, wholesome anime image helps excuse her happiness and makes her a darling of Japan's right-wing circles on X. And one could almost mistake her for satire. The half-Irish anime fan tasked with keeping Japan ethnically pure. But nevertheless, I guess she envisions a Japan that everyone can love, as long as they play by Japan's rules, assimilate, and leave a part of themselves at the door.